Alright, on the takeoff roll out of Brookline, power comes up. We check 23 to 2400 RPMs, oil pressure, fuel pressure, release the brakes. A little bit of back pressure. We'll start to see the nose just come up a tiny bit. Start the rotation. Airplane's airborne, pitch up for 74, which is going to be cowling almost to the top of the hill. Check the airspeed, make a pitch adjustment as we need to. Flaps have come to 1, and I start the left turnout. I'm accelerating up to 85, make a small pitch adjustment. And still watching the pitch, trying to find that 85 mile an hour spot as I'm climbing out. Notice the pitch of the airplane staying very steady right where I want it. Now if the nose comes down, if the nose went down, then I make my correction right back up to where I need to be. Same thing, if the nose went up, I bring the nose right back down to the pitch that I had and let the airspeed stabilize before I make any corrections. Now we're on the base leg for landing into Brookline. I have my pitch set for 80 and I look at where the horizon is in reference to the cowling. If that picture changes, I'm going to have the nose go down, and then I will make a correction back to, there it is, nose went down, so now I make a correction right back to where I was. So note where the nose goes up, I make a correction right back to where I was. So note where the horizon is coming through the windshield, distance from the cowling, using the center windshield brace, getting a point on there. And you're going to notice all during this approach, the horizon is going to stay in the general same area. Now I've just noticed I'm high on the approach, so I've pulled the power to idle. I'm at full flaps. I'm in that turn to final. Now runway will be coming into view in just a minute. There's the swamp and there's the runway. So I'm looking at the extended center line of the runway and keeping the airplane lined up with that. The camera is off center to the left a little bit, so it's going to look a little funny. Now I saw I was high, so I've induced a slip. So I fed in right rudder and left aileron. If you can see the airspeed indicator down at the bottom of the screen, we're still at about 75 miles an hour. I've come out of the slip, and I will bring the power back in to stabilize the approach, because I don't need to go any lower. This is a real good picture. Look where the horizon is. The runway stays in a fixed spot in the windscreen vertically. It doesn't move up and down. Power changes as I need to. And power comes to idle. Start the flare. I have a little bit of a tailwind, so I got to float out of it. And I was carrying extra speed because of the gusty conditions. I've retracted the flaps and I'm on the brakes. Alright, a second takeoff. Parking brake is set, flaps are set for 2, the power comes up. 23 to 2400 RPMs, oil pressure, fuel pressure, release the brake. Steering down the center of the runway. Again, this camera's a little left. So a little back pressure, nose starts to come up, rotation, and off we go. Cowling just about to the top of the hill. Start looking for my 74 plus any gust additives if I need it. It's very windy on this video. My flaps are already at 1 now. I've retracted those and I've started my left turn out. Again, I'm looking now for my 85 mile an hour best rate of climb. So I find the pitch attitude that I want. I was a little slow, so I've dropped the nose down to accelerate, but very little, and now I'm playing with the pitch, finding the exact spot where I want it to be. Notice the horizon, the clouds out there, they just stay in one spot on the airplane, and that's what I'm referencing my airspeed off of. I look at the airspeed and I make a very minor correction if I need to. Now I'm in the right turn, I drop the nose just a tiny bit to increase the speed a tiny, and then I'm right back to where I was, climbing at my 85. You can see the airspeed indicator in the sunlight down there. It's right on the 85, making very small pitch changes the entire time. Now I'm going through the 1,000 foot. I'm starting to accelerate, so I've dropped the nose and starting to accelerate to my 100-mile-an-hour cruise climb. Notice the nose is lower. Alright, we're on a turning the base leg into Brookline again. I'm setting the airplane up for 80 miles an hour with 2 notches of flaps. Horizon, same place it was on the last approach. Note the distance between the cowling and the horizon, where it crosses through on the windshield brace. Airspeed's a little tough to see on the indicator, but we're doing about 80 now. Start the turn to final. We're over the sand pit. Again, I have this tailwind which keeps making me high, so I've reduced the power to idle to get on this visual glide slope where I want to be. Speeds, we're 3 notches of flap, speed's about 75. I'm watching for any gust additives that I might need. Now the power has just come back in. Notice the hill does not block the runway. I always have complete view of the runway. This approach is a little lower than the last one. I'm carrying just a little bit more power. I've got the airplane stabilized at 70 miles an hour for the short field approach with full flaps, and a few miles an hour for the gust additives. It was a little windy. So the runway does not change its vertical location in the windscreen as I come in. If I start getting a little low, I add power. If I start getting high, I reduce power. Probably a little sink over the swamp. Alright, power comes to idle. Flare the airplane. Hold it off. Touching down right at my taxiway. Flaps come up, brakes come on.